Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to a brand new video. Today we have another NFL mock draft, but in this one, there's a little bit of a twist on it. Instead of doing our usual prediction picks where we predict what every team will go in this mock draft, we're going to be doing I guess this is a requested video where I'm going to be making a mock draft, but I am the GM of every team. Make sure to like and subscribe to this video and to the channel, and go into the description and submit your video ideas because more likely than not, I will be doing them unless they're dumb or they're not relevant. Like, don't give me something that I can't do in the middle of a season where it's probably more likely to be done in the off season. To start off with this video, we have the first overall pick in the draft. And, usually this pick is pretty easily Caleb Williams. Contractually wise, it makes sense to draft Caleb Williams over keeping Justin Fields. But in this one, I think I'm going to do a little bit different, or do this a little bit different. In my early mock drafts, I had them go Marvin Harrison Jr. at 1 to give Justin Fields another weapon to continue his progression. And I think I'm going to do this here too. Now, in real life, this pick will most likely be Caleb Williams. But to continue Justin Fields' progression, to give him more weapons, and I think this Bears team might be a little bit of a sneaky team to make the playoffs next year. I think giving him another weapon in Marvin Harrison Jr. will help his development a lot and make the Bears overall a better team. At 2, we have the Washington Commanders, and if Caleb Williams was picked 1, I probably would not go quarterback, honestly. I think Sam Howell can still be progressed, I guess. Can still be your starting quarterback. You just need to give him a little bit of time. And we saw during the regular season what he was able to do with time, but in the pocket, he had the most passing yards, and then he kind of fell off a little bit. Started getting sacked a lot more. He was the most sacked quarterback last season. That was some of the reason why he didn't end up having the greatest season. But earlier on in the season, where he had more time in the pocket, he was playing like a solidified starting quarterback. But now, with Caleb Williams still being on the board, I think it has to be Caleb Williams. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Yes, Sam Howell probably should get another opportunity somewhere. Maybe if it's with the Commanders, but probably on another team. But Caleb Williams is a generational quarterback, and it kind of feels feel a little bit bad for Sam Howell, but this is really just the way it's going to be, whether it's Caleb Williams or in real life, whether it's Drake May or Jayden Daniels. At 3, we have the New England Patriots, and actually, I'm not going to be giving them Drake May in this mock draft. I'm going to go ahead and give them Jayden Daniels out of LSU. I think Drake May in the pocket is the better quarterback, but when you think about the other aspects of football, whether it's not just passing, but also Jayden Daniels being able to use his legs, had over 1,100 rushing yards last season, and his Heisman season at LSU. With all that being said, I think he has to be the higher pick than Drake May. Pocket passing, I will give it to Drake May, but other than that, I think Jayden Daniels is the better prospect. A great runner, reminds me a bit of Lamar Jackson. That might be a little bit lazy because they're both amazing runners, but Daniels has top-end speed, and he's also a pretty big quarterback too. Probably not as big as Drake May, but height-wise, he definitely has it. Probably has to put a little bit more pounds on, but overall, Jayden Daniels, in my opinion, is the quarterback 2 in this draft class. At 4, we have the Arizona Cardinals, and with no Marvin Harrison Jr. on the board, I think I'm going to be doing a trade down in this pick. Now, I did swap the New York Giants and the Arizona Cardinals picks, so I'm going to be drafting for the Giants here with the 4th overall pick. At 4, it's pretty simple. The Giants traded up just to get their quarterback of the future. It's going to be Drake May. Overall, Drake May probably in real life becomes the 2nd or 3rd player in this mock draft taken, but with Marvin Harrison Jr. being boosted up to 1 and quarterbacks going at 2 and 3 that are not Drake May, he fell to 4, and I think the Giants are definitely one of those teams who could try to trade up for him. Also looking at the Falcons, maybe the Raiders, also the Saints are some other teams that can also look to trade up, but right now I'm going to have the Giants trade up to 4 to draft Drake May, because as the GM of every team, this is the trade I'm going to be making. At 5, we have the Chargers, and I think with Brock Bowers on the board, I'm the GM, so I'm going to be making the pick. But yeah, generational tight ends who I've seen in some mock drafts fall to all the way. Were the Bengals picking 18? Daniel Jeremiah did that. But as the GM for the Chargers, I can't pass on this generational tight end. You do need more receiving weapons. Keenan Allen might not be on the team within 2 years. Mike Williams might be cut. Josh Palmer, same thing with Keenan Allen, might not be on the team within 2 years. And finally, Quentin Johnston is just not amazing right now. Let's get them a new weapon, and I can kind of use that same philosophy for a tight end like Brock Bowers, or maybe a wide receiver like Malik Neighbors, or possibly even Rome Odunze. At 6, we have the Arizona Cardinals, and with trading down, I think this pick should be pretty easy. I'm going to give them Malik Neighbors here out of LSU. You get your new wide receiver 1. Kyler Murray gets a new weapon. And overall, I think it comes in right away and is your best wide receiver. They don't trade down from the spot if Marvin Harrison Jr. is available, but because Marvin Harrison Jr. went at 1, they trade down to 6, and they get the second best wide receiver in this draft class. At 7, we have the Titans. Now, previously, this pick has always been Joe Alt, and this pick has always been Joe Alt. And right now, Joe Alt has the higher floor than Olu Fashanu. But in this mock draft, I'm going to have the Titans draft based off of potential in Olu Fashanu here at 7. Yes, Joe Alt might be the better fit next to Peter Skoronski, but when it comes to ceiling, I think Olu Fashanu has potential to be a top 3 tackle in this league. Earlier this season, he did have problems against JT Tuimoloau, and obviously in practice he had to go against guys like Chop Robinson. But I think I'm going to bank on his potential. I'm going to have him go 7 to the Titans. And overall, the Titans should be happy with this pick. I think this should be between tackle or wide receiver. But, with Will Levis, I think you have to give him some protection going into his second year so he doesn't end up injured. I mean, that's the best way I could put it. If the best thing you want to get for your rookie quarterback or your second-year quarterback, if it's not a weapon, it's protection. So I have Olu Fashanu going at 7. At 8, we have the Atlanta Falcons, and I think this is going to be one of 2 players. It's going to be wide receiver, and going to be Rome Odunze. That's kind of the only guy I'm thinking about here. Or it's going to be edge in Dallas Turner, Jared Verse, or Laiatu Latu. And usually I've been giving them edge, but I think in this mock draft, with wide receiver, I'm going to stick with edge. But instead of giving them Dallas Turner here at 8, I'm going to give them Jared Verse. In real life, Jared Verse and Dallas Turner are my 1A and 1B edge in this class. But, we're doing something a little bit different. Let's say that the Falcons need more of a edge 1 type of player, where Dallas Turner could probably slot into that 2 or 3 for a team. I think Jared Verse, he definitely commands that number 1 edge spot. And in my opinion, with not an amazing season at Florida State last year, he had a better season at Florida State 2 years ago, but he still had an okay season. Again, another player where we're going to try to bank on his potential, because I think at the end of the day, there's a chance that Jared Verse is a top 3 player in this draft class. At 9, we have the Chicago Bears, and we can really no longer go ahead and take wide receiver here at 9, where we usually take Rome Odunze, but they did pick wide receiver at 1, and right now, I'm not going to give them quarterback. We're going to keep with Justin Fields. So instead of giving them a quarterback or wide receiver, I think we're going to go into that edge department, where we're going to give them Dallas Turner here at 9. In my opinion, or I guess not even in my opinion, but it's just a fact that the Chicago Bears had one of the worst pass rushing percentages in the league last year, and getting potentially edge 1 with the second edge off the board feels like pretty good value for the Bears here at 9. I'm going to have Dallas Turner go to the Bears, and getting a draft class of Marvin Harrison Jr. and Dallas Turner seems pretty good, at least for the first round. At 10, we have the Jets, and I think this one is pretty easy. It's going to be between tackle here in Joe Alt, who should not fall to 9, and wide receiver here in Rome Odunze. So instead of going Rome Odunze, we're going to give them Joe Alt, a player who has no business falling to 9, but just because I had Olu Fashanu going at 7, he fell there, dropping to 10. So getting, in my opinion, who will be drafted highest as a tackle in this draft class, getting him at 10 is extremely good value. If this happened in real life, I'd be giving the Jets an A+ grade. So having the Jets go Joe Alt at 10, they get to snag him off the board, a player who should not have been there in the first place. At 11, we have the Minnesota Vikings. And in real life, we're probably going to be looking at edge, but right now, with Laiatu Latu being the best on the board, no longer having Dallas Turner or Jared Verse, they might want to think about a different position, maybe cornerback in Terrion Arnold, or maybe Nate Wiggins. But I honestly will probably still give them edge here in Laiatu Latu. Latu has not gotten injured in 2 years, or not a big injury in 2 years where he had to step out of the season. Had to medically retire 2 years ago when he was with Washington. But now at UCLA, he's had a good 2 straight years for the Bruins, and he has the makings of possibly the best edge in this class. Now we're going to see him during the draft combine if he passes his physical, and overall has a pretty good combine. I could definitely see this guy end up going 8 in real life. But in this mock draft, I'm going to have him going 11, which is definitely a lot higher than where I usually have him, which is about 19. So nice to see Laiatu Latu jump up the boards a little bit and go 11 to the Minnesota Vikings. At 12, we have the Denver Broncos, and I think this one is either wide receiver with Rome Odunze still on the board, or possibly we go with cornerback. But like I said before, Rome Odunze still being on the board, I think this kind of has to be the pick. I'm going to have him. Well, that was JJ McCarthy. I'm going to have to fix this real quick. Okay, I was able to reverse my mistake by having to redraft basically every team. But yes, everything is good. We have Rome Odunze going 12 to the Broncos. I think it's just way too much value to leave off the board. You know, imagine if Odunze slips to 14 for the Saints to take. That'd be pretty crazy. But Sean Payton gets his new, possibly wide receiver 1. I mean, you know, we'll see. Rome Odunze does have a good wide receiver 1 type of build. And in real life, Odunze most likely goes top 10. They're able to snag him right out of the top 10 and gives whoever their future quarterback is a new weapon. At 13, we have the Raiders. And I think right now this probably has to be offensive tackle, at least in my opinion, because I'm going to be drafting for every team. Could see this being corner as well, but I'm going to give them tackle here. It's going to be Talisi Fuega out of Oregon State. In real life, Fuega most likely goes 10 to the Jets just because of how much connections he has with the front office, you know, just throughout the whole season. But have him dropping to 13 for the Raiders to take. They need to give, I guess, Aiden O'Connell some protection this season. We'll also see if the Raiders maybe try to replace him and maybe go with a quarterback that's maybe Kirk Cousins if they want to start contending again. But I kind of doubt that. I kind of see Aiden O'Connell going to be or being their quarterback 1 going into next season. So let's give him some protection, Talisi Fuega, and maybe for whoever is your future quarterback, he gets a nice solid offensive tackle, or maybe, offensive tackle here in Talisi Fuega. At 14, we have the New Orleans Saints. And usually when I make this draft pick for them, it ends up being offensive tackle in J.C. Latham or Amarius Mims. Most likely it's been J.C. Latham though. But with cornerback still being on the board, it's definitely an option we could go with, like Terrion Arnold or Quinion Mitchell. But as a general manager, the way the board has fallen so far, I think this still has to be J.C. Latham out of Alabama. Ryan Ramczyk could be retired within 2 years, has those knees problems. So getting his replacement in J.C. Latham, in my opinion, as the general manager, would be best suited for them. At 15, we have the Indianapolis Colts, and right now, I mean, it says that wide receiver is their number 1 need. I don't think Keon Coleman or Brian Thomas Jr. should go this high. I think we rock with Michael Pittman and Josh Downs, you know, that little duo for another season with some complementary pieces on the side as well with Alec Pierce, and maybe they draft someone in the second round to fix that wide receiver. But I'm going to have them go cornerback here. You know, the top cornerbacks, there's not been any cornerbacks going off the board so far. So Terrion Arnold, Quinion Mitchell, Nate Wiggins, still all on the board. I'm going to give them Terrion Arnold, in my opinion, my cornerback 1 in this draft class. Going to a cornerback needy team. It's a great pick for the Colts, and maybe someone who could replace Kenny Moore down the line. Who knows? Moore definitely more of a slot guy, but he's getting a little bit older, and maybe he wants to go to more of a contending team that's not the Indianapolis Colts. We'll see. I think Terrion Arnold's first corner off the board, 15 to the Colts. Honestly, it's a steal. At 16 to the Seahawks, I'm actually not going to go interior offensive line. Usually, I guess I have to go to tackle. It's been Troy Fautanu here at 16, or it's been Jackson Powers Johnson here at 16. But instead, I'm going to give them interior defensive line, or I'm going to give them Byron Murphy here. Yes, it's just definitely a position they need a lot. They're kind of weak in the interior defensive line. Leonard Williams, we'll see if he comes back to the team. Most likely not, because he's just never been on a great team his whole career and probably looking to win sometime soon. And that's most likely not going to be with the Seahawks, let's be honest. He'll probably want to go to a contender. But yes, getting his replacement possibly in Byron Murphy, someone who just lives in the backfield, it's a good value pick for the Seahawks at 16. And next up we have the Jaguars at 17. Can definitely go a couple of places here. Wide receiver, possibly. Could also look at interior defensive line, maybe in Johnny Newton, or maybe cornerback in Nate Wiggins or Quinion Mitchell. But with this 17th overall pick, I'm going to give them wide receiver here. It's going to be Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU. In real life, or I guess I'm going to count into this mock draft as well. If they decide to move on from Calvin Ridley, they get a second-round pick. And is Calvin Ridley worth a second-round pick at this point in his career, where he did not have a great season last year? I'm not so sure, so I'm going to have the Jaguars release or not bring back Calvin Ridley and retain their second-round pick to go ahead and get them another wide receiver here in Brian Thomas Jr., someone who, in my opinion, can come right in and become their wide receiver one. Might be a lot to say from the rookie, but I think Brian Thomas Jr. does have that in him. At 18, we have the Bengals. And I think right now, because of wide receiver, kind of being taken off the board, this is going to be between cornerback and maybe like Quinyon Mitchell or Nate Wiggins, or this is going to be of offensive line. Amarius Mims is here, Taylor Guyton is here, maybe even Troy Fautanu, maybe even Kingsley Suamataia. Probably not him though. Probably look at Guyton, Mims, or Fautanu here. But I think I might lean cornerback with this pick. Quinyon Mitchell and Nate Wiggins still on the board. Might be a little bit of a steal for them. Could let them drop a little bit more, but kind of want to go one of those guys right here. You know what? No, I'm going to give them tackle. It's going to be Amarius Mims here out of Georgia. At 19, we have the Los Angeles Rams. I think this pick should be pretty easy, at least for me. I'm going to give them Nate Wiggins here out of Clemson. He used to be my cornerback one. He's 6'4" with freakishly long arms, and overall, it's just an amazing football player rather than just cornerback. He will not give up on a play. Obviously the famous clip of him running down to force a fumble at the when the offensive player was about to enter the end zone, punched the ball out from behind. I think it was the running back. Who was that against? Was that against North Carolina? Can't exactly remember. But it was an amazing play. Just further showed why he deserves to be the first or second cornerback taken off the board. In my opinion, he's going to be the second one. And I have him 19 to the Rams. At 20, we have the Steelers. Again, I think this should be pretty easy. With now Amarius Mims and JC leave them off the board, I think they should not look at tackle. Instead, we're going to give them cornerback, the third corner off the board. It's going to be It's going to be Quinyon Mitchell out of Toledo. I think in my predictive mock draft, I also had this as well. So it's going to be interesting to see his full or how he translate from college to the NFL. Because obviously at college, Toledo, not the biggest school, not in the best conference. But overall, he has all the attributes to be a great corner. 6'1", 6'2", one of the fastest players overall in this class. Long arms, extremely physical at the line, and it feels like a Steelers type of player, especially a Mike Tomlin type of player. At 21, we have the Dolphins. Make this pretty easy. It's going to be Jackson Powers-Johnson. They have a pretty apparent hole at that center position. I think Jackson Powers-Johnson comes in right away and potentially starts for the Dolphins. Again, I think this is what I had in my predictive mock draft, and also what I think should happen if I am every team's NFL GM. At 22, we have the Eagles. It's probably going to be between cornerback, edge, and tackle position. Right now with the edge, not too comfortable with having Chop Robinson go right here. I know, he could go possibly, but I'm not too comfortable with that. Either with Darius Robinson, Adisa Isaac, Chris Braswell, and Berlin Trice. I'm going to try to probably move all those guys to the second round. Could look at corner here and Kool-Aid McKinstry, maybe Ennis Rakestraw Jr. Could also look at tackle, interior, or interior offensive lineman. Tyler Guyton here, Troy Fautanu here. I think right now, the best way to help this team is to give them more offensive line help. Your guys are aging, man. Jason Kelsey, he might not be on that team next year. Could potentially. We'll see if he's retiring or not. But other than him, Lane Johnson, also getting older. Basically, their whole offensive line kind of needs a bit of a revamp. We're kind of entering a new era of Eagles football here. And I think Troy Fautanu, who possibly could go in the top 16 in real life, I think getting him at 22 is a pretty good pick for the Eagles. And in my opinion, this is what should happen. At 23, we have the Texans. And now that Brian Thomas Jr. is not off the board, I think Keon Coleman could definitely be a viable option for them at 23. Could also look at interior defensive linemen, Johnny Newton being here, T'Vondre Sweat, even Chris Jenkins, who's rated pretty low on this website. But, we could also look at corner, maybe linebacker as well. They do have D'Amico Ryans as their head coach, and he was a former NFL linebacker and a pretty good one at that, so could look at linebacker. But I think with this pick, I'm going to give them interior defensive lineman, Johnny Newton here at 23. I think this could also happen in real life, but in my opinion, it's a guy who's a top 15 type of player. No idea why he started to fall down draft boards. I think getting him at 23 is good value, and honestly, you could probably consider a little bit of a steal. But again, Johnny Newton, a little bit undersized, but he's a powerful type of player. Overall, I'd be surprised if he does not end up being a first-round pick. At 24, we have the Cowboys, and I think this is going to be a pretty interesting one for me. I'm not going to give them wide receiver. I'm not going to give them edge. Oh, by the way, Cooper DeJean is listed as a safety now in this mock draft website. Just wanted to point that out. Just kind of saw that while I was scrolling through. But yeah, not giving them tackle, not giving them edge. Probably not going to give them corner as well. I'm actually going to go ahead and give them a running back here. It's going to be Jonathan Brooks out of Texas. And this is the first time I've ever had a running back in one of my mock drafts. But in what I think should happen, what I think, actually no, this is what I think should happen. I'm every team's NFL GM. I'm going to throw out the positional value players, like a running back, like a linebacker, like a safety. Those are all positions that usually don't end up in the first round. Instead of looking at positional value, I'm going to look at player value. And Jonathan Brooks, in my opinion, will go along great with Tony Pollard. Pollard more of a receiving back, elusive back, while Jonathan Brooks really brings in that power, can run players over. I mean, he's definitely a powerful running back. I could see them both getting equal touches on the field. And I think overall, Jonathan Brooks will definitely be a second-round pick. But who knows? He could end up in the first round with a good combine. At 25, we have the Packers. This should be a run-up to the podium type of pick. Cooper DeJean should not be available. He's listed as a safety. He could do it all. Not much I can say about that one. Cooper DeJean, in my opinion, a top 20 prospect for sure. Even what I think should happen, I still have him dropping all the way down to 25. Pretty easy pick, though, for the Packers at 25. At 26, we have the Buccaneers, and I'm actually going to go wide receiver with this pick. It's going to be Keon Coleman out of Florida State. I think Mike Evans won't be on this team next year, and I'm going to just be completely honest. I think he'll try to join a contender, but Keon Coleman, I think, can end up being a bit of a replacement for him. Similar size. Overall, Mike Evans, it's going to be hard to duplicate or replicate, I guess, what he did in his seasons with the Buccaneers, having 1,000 receiving yards in every single one of them. Do I think Keon Coleman will do that? I mean, maybe his first season. I mean, he has him and Chris Godwin are wide receiver 1 and 2 for them. So maybe coming in right away, having a good rookie season, maybe he can replicate what Mike Evans was able to do. Also, Baker Mayfield, we know he does throw for a lot of passing yards. So he definitely has the opportunity to. We'll just see if his production is at the same rate as Mike Evans. Most likely will not be, because Mike Evans is one of the greatest wide receivers of all time. Yes, I said it. But, we'll see. At 27, we have the Arizona Cardinals. With our first pick, we went wide receiver. I think with this pick, we're going to have to go either cornerback or tackle. Kool-Aid McKinstry still being on the board might have to be the pick. Could also look at a tackle in Tyler Guyton, Jordan Morgan, or Kingsley Suamataia. I'm going to lean cornerback here. It's going to be Kool-Aid McKinstry. He just straight up should not be available here at 27. It's just the way the board fell. He fell, or that's just the way the board went that he fell. And I think it's a pretty easy pick for the Cardinals here. If this was their draft in real life, getting Malik Nabers at 6 and Kool-Aid McKinstry's at 27, overall, that's definitely an A type of grade. At 28, we have the Buffalo Bills. I think this has to be wide receiver. I'm going to give them A.D. Mitchell here out of Texas. In real life, or I guess, I don't know why I keep saying in real life, but yes, Stephon Diggs, getting a bit older, not as reliable, let's be honest, not playing as well as we know the Stephon Diggs can be. Gabe Davis will not be on this team next year. Khalil Shakir, he's been playing pretty well. I think he'll come in. I think him, A.D. Mitchell, and Stephon Diggs can be a pretty good wide receiver trio for the time being. After that, we're probably going to have to look for a Stephon Diggs replacement. But A.D. Mitchell probably comes in right away and is their wide receiver 2. Maybe even wide receiver 1. Let's see what happens with Stephon Diggs and whether or not Josh Allen likes A.D. Mitchell more than he likes Stephon Diggs. But I think him at 28 is good value for the Bills. Also something that I can see happen in real life. I also think the Chiefs at 32 are pretty mad that they did not get Adonai Mitchell falling to them. Yo, what's good, guys? Just editing this right now. Just telling you that there is a bit of quality in my camera drop off around the end of this mock draft. Yeah, it's probably going to happen right after you guys watch this little intermission. Enjoy the video. At 29, we have the Lions. With the players available right now, J.J. McCarthy, Chop Robinson, some of the top tier players still available right now. I'm actually going to lean them or give them cornerback. It's going to be Ennis Rakestraw Jr. I've started to like this guy a lot more. Before, did not consider him a first-round prospect at all, but I think it would be pretty crazy if he did not end in the first round, and that's really just my opinion. Have him going 29 to the Lions. He's a Dan Campbell type of player. Just like Cooper DeJean, he is versatile, probably not to the extent of Cooper DeJean, Brandon Straw can play multiple positions on the field, and I think for the Lions at 29, it's good value, it's a good pick, and it's also something that I predict will happen in real life. At 30, we have the Baltimore Ravens. I think we could go a couple of different positions here. Could look at wide receiver, Xavier Worthy maybe, Troy Franklin, Malachi Corley, someone that I do like a lot. I think is underrated. Could also look at interior defensive linemen. Right now with, where is he? With T'Vondre Sweat still being on the board. Could also look at Chris Jenkins maybe, to go along with Travis Jones. Or we could also look at edge. Probably not. I mean, they could snag Chop Robinson here, but I did explain that I wanted them to slip into the second rounds. Overall, what? I might just go edge. I think I am. I'm going to give them Chop Robinson here at 30. Chop Robinson, in my opinion, is 100% a first-round prospect. Just the way mock drafts have gone recently, just hasn't gotten in the first round. I think for the Baltimore Ravens, they definitely have a guy with amazing high potential here in Chop Robinson. Someone in real life who probably could end up being one of the best players in this draft class. Yes, I did say it. Definitely the best edge in this draft class if everything goes right. But at the end of the day, we could be talking about this guy as a top 10 player in this draft class. Have him going 30 to the Ravens. At 31, we have the 49ers. I think this probably should be edge or tackle or corner. Tackle, Kingsley Suamataia, Tyler Guyton. Just two guys I can mention at the top of that are right here. Could also look at edge, both taking Chop Robinson off the board. Not too comfortable having any of these guys in the first round. Then finally corner with Kamari Lassiter maybe. TJ Tampa, probably not. I mean, it's probably just Kamari Lassiter here. So yeah, I'm probably between Kamari Lassiter or some of the top offensive tackle or offensive line players in this draft class. I think I'm going to lean Graham Barton here at 31. Someone who could honestly play all three positions on the offensive line. Tackle, center, or guard. And with the versatility he brings and how the 49ers are in pretty desperate need of offensive linemen, Graham Barton will come in right away. Probably not start, but give him a year or two under that offensive line system. I think he'll become a solid offensive line player or player in general for the 49ers. At 32, last and final pick of this mock draft, we have the Chiefs. I think we could look at wide receiver. Could also look at tight end potentially in Ja'Tavion Sanders. Also could look at edge as well, but I think probably not really. With the players left on this board, not too comfortable with that one. So yeah, I'm between wide receiver and tackle, offensive weapon. Or wide receiver or tight end, I mean. When I think of tight ends, it really is just Ja'Tavion Sanders. But wide receivers could look at Glad McConkey maybe. Xavier Worthy, Troy Franklin sticks out to me a lot. You know what? I think I'm going to give them Ja'Tavion Sanders. Yeah, I'm going to give them Ja'Tavion Sanders here at 32. Is that kind of crazy? I am going to give them Ja'Tavion Sanders. He's a very solid player that I think Andy Reid will be able to utilize very well in his system. It gives Patrick Mahomes another pair of hands to throw to, and potentially when Travis Kelce is no longer at his level that he's playing at right now, or possibly not even on this team if he retires, I think Ja'Tavion Sanders can come in and become tight end one for the Chiefs, and maybe a top tight end in the whole league. So that's it for this mock draft. It's not my predictive mock draft, but it is my mock draft for what would I do if I was the general manager of every team. Player who might have fell or maybe got a little higher than usual. Maybe Olu Fashanu probably is not going to go 7 in real life. Probably ends up being 10 or 13, but I have him going 7 to the Titans. Other than him, I guess Laiatu Latu being at 11 is probably a little bit higher than what I've usually had. Joe Alt falling a little bit. Rome Odunze falling a little bit. Other than him, maybe Brian Thomas Jr. being a little bit high at 17. But I think with possibly losing Calvin Ridley, in my opinion, they should be losing Calvin Ridley. Brian Thomas Jr. is a good pick at 17. Other than that, Jonathan Brooks at 24. First time I've had a running back in my mock draft, but I think he definitely warrants that. Other than that, I think that's probably it. Maybe Chop Robinson sneaking into the first round and Ja'Tavion Sanders sneaking into the first round. But yeah, what if I was the general manager of every NFL team? These are the draft picks I would make. Thanks for watching this video, and see you next time. Make sure to like and subscribe, and peace.